Awesome. Welcome everyone to our District 103 Toastmaster Senior Advisor webinar series. I am Cassandra Diva of Dialogue Lee, the District 103 past district director, and I say a lifetime senior advisor for the district due to that role. This is a program that I designed about a year ago this time. As a matter of fact, it was 1 year ago in January when I recognized District 103 had so many ideas of programs and events that we wanted to do, yet not enough time to do it. During that time, we were face to face. Now we're virtual. I started this program, though, as a virtual event to help supplement the programming that was being done by District 103. Primarily for me, the focus of the D103 Senior Advisor webinar series is to touch on any of the topic areas that our club members, our club leaders, and our district leaders need for membership growth, membership retention, education achievement, and anything in between. That's why a lot of the topics that you will attend and have attended through this particular program has been focused a lot on leadership, leadership development, and taking on new leadership opportunities. Today's focus is on club recruitment and club retention. I noticed back in June, and I say it was back in June when District 103 held the first ever, and I chuckle at that because it won't be the first ever anymore. It'll be the second time we'll end up seeing another virtual event for TLI. Yet it was the very first District 103 Virtual Toastmasters Leadership Institute. At that event, several individuals were given the opportunity to present workshops. The workshops were all held concurrently, which meant some individuals did not get a chance to attend topics that were being presented. One such topic was the one we did earlier this month, which was on free toast hosts. That was done by Dushan Mosley. Well, Dushan was teaching at the same time that Calvin Gibbs was also teaching, and Calvin Gibbs presented his virtual club recruiting workshop on that day as well. Later in November, or I should say February, November is long gone, Cassandra. Yet in February, we will have Sonia Gibbs, who's going to present her summer TLI workshop as well. And her program is going to be on professional speaking, YouTubing, and podcasting. Again, Dushan, Calvin, and Sonia all presented at the same time. Well, I was in a different breakout session because I'm a VPE, Vice President of Education. I decided I would go to the breakout session that was on pathways, but I really wanted to hear more about club recruiting, free toast hosts, and even doing podcasting. Well, I couldn't be in 4 places at once. So I decided when I kicked off the D103 Senior Advisor webinar series again, I would start to feature those presenters. And henceforth, we are here today with a guest speaker, Calvin Gibbs. Calvin is going to have the opportunity to present for you what he presented for members back in June of 2020. I say get your notes together. Make certain you get prepared to chat in the chat box. You can also use the reaction icons as we go along the way. Calvin, I'll be monitoring the chat box for you. And if there are any questions that you want me to pop in and share, you let me know. You can also let us know, Calvin, how you want to do Q&A. Some people do the Q&A throughout the presentation, and then some presenters decide let's have a certain segment for the Q&A. Of course, that is up to you. You let me know, I will flow with you. Everyone, just to make certain, I'm seeing the reaction icons, and what I'm doing is letting people in at the same time as well. Do me a favor, use a reaction icon just to make sure this Zoom is working. Use whichever reaction icon you want to use. Yes, I see claps and thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Some hearts, the celebration cone. Awesome. So we see the reaction icons can be used. You can definitely use those throughout the presentation. If you have a question for Calvin, be sure to put them in the chat box. And if by chance, yes, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I was just getting ready to say, Elizabeth, if by chance you have a question that needs to be answered, I want you to make sure that you use that raised hand icon. A moment ago, I said use the reaction icons. I saw that Elizabeth had used the raised hand. Right now, I put up the raised hand. So that way, Calvin, if there is a question, the raised hands can be used as well. And then that may make it easier for us to see. I will now lower my hand because I really don't have a question. I simply wanted to test out the reaction icon. Now that we know that it's being used well, that's awesome. And Sonia, I see your raised hand. I see Mark's raised hand. Awesome, good. So I see that they're all working. Great. I have been muting everyone in order to eliminate some of the background noise. I want to make certain that we can give Calvin our undivided attention, as well as make certain that we have a noise-free environment. Therefore, if you do have a question, use the raised hand feature first or put it in the chat box, and then that way you'll know to go ahead and unmute. Otherwise, I am hearing the background sounding nice and quiet, and I'm also ready to turn the floor over to our guest speaker for today. Now, this is a colleague of mine. This is someone that I have known for quite some time. Calvin Gibbs, I met when we were all a part of District 30. Calvin is currently still a part of District 30 as a part of the Beyond the Seas Toastmasters Club. He's been very instrumental in helping that club to succeed as well as to grow. He joined District 103 last year, actually, when he became a part of my home club, the Wrightwood Ashburn Overcomers Wayo Toastmasters Club, which means he now has dual membership and he has the ability of being in both districts. Calvin has been instrumental in also assisting WAO with making sure we don't forget key times of the year for club recruiting, like those membership building campaigns, and he definitely shares his insight along the way. Today, he's going to continue with sharing his insight. This two-time distinguished Toastmaster is going to present you with virtual club recruiting. Virtual club recruiting, everyone, welcome Calvin Gibbs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Cassandra, very much. Welcome to Virtual Club Recruiting. And yes, I did do this workshop last year in June, but it's not the same workshop because as we learn about a virtual environment, I had to change some things in the presentation. So what you're going to see today is what I think is currently workable and usable for recruiting members in this virtual environment. Who knows, next week, some of this information could change. It could be some more added to it or taken away from it. Now, the way that I would like to work the Q&A is I will ask you to please put your questions in the chat, and Cassandra will monitor that for me. I'll take breaks from the slides every now and then, and if there's any questions, she can give them to me. I will address them. However, towards the end of the presentation will be time for Q&A. Anything that hasn't been put in the chat, anything that you want to talk about or discuss. There may be some ideas about virtual recruitment that we will determine or discover in this workshop presentation. So put on your thinking hats as well. In this virtual world that we find ourselves in, when we first got sheltered in place last March, a lot of the Toastmasters clubs were thinking, how in the world are we going to have and conduct meetings with the same standards, the same positivity, the same productivity as we had in the past? Well, my club Beyond the Seas, we had our first club meeting the third week of March. And what we did before, as soon as we heard about being sheltered in place or that it was coming, The officers got together and started practicing on Zoom. Now, I myself, I was skeptical. So I sat back during that first meeting. I volunteered to be the timer so I could see how this was all going to work. I had not used Zoom before that point, so this was a learning experience for me as well. And after the meeting, I was all in. I realized that this was going to be the new norm, and we could use this productively to continue to grow the club. There was ideas that I had, things that I saw that hadn't even been discussed yet. But there's a lot of things that we did in person meetings that would have to be reinvented for the virtual world. And today, I'm going to share some of those ideas with you. If you can see my screen, everyone, just nod your head. Fantastic. So, what is virtual? What does it mean to be virtual online? Now,
Calvin,
virtual,
Calvin, can
yes,
I ask a quick question? Which do you want us to see the next slide that's coming forth as well, or just your main slide?
just my main slide. I'm
Okay,
going to make I'm going to make that adjustment now then.
okay.
Just the main slide is showing.
Yes.
Fantastic. So when you think about the word virtual, by definition, it means something that exists in essence, but it's not there in reality. Okay. For example, if you meet a friend virtually online, that's all well and good, but you can't expect for that person to meet you for coffee. Not online. That's not going to happen. An example of virtual is the way we've been having Toastmasters meetings for the last 11 months. Virtual meetings where we can see each other, we can share ideas, we can smile, we can frown, but we cannot shake hands anymore. We cannot give each other daps anymore. We can't give each other hugs anymore, but we can do it virtually. So a virtual meeting is just that, where people can meet anywhere in the world as long as they have the login information. They can use their location, video, audio, text to link up online. And we're going to talk about how do we recruit our clubs online. First thing that I suggest, invite your guests to meetings. We have done that in the past, meeting in person. So continue to do that in this virtual world. Is actually, and push the idea that it's actually easier now for people to join club meetings online. They don't have to get fully dressed. They don't even have to turn their video camera on in a lot of cases, but they can experience what Toastmasters has to offer. So invite guests to meetings. Have your club members invite guests to meetings. And that also will let the prospective members, the guests, see what Toastmasters is all about. To a lot of people, Toastmasters is something that they don't know about. They don't know the definition of Toastmasters. They think it's something to do with toast and bread. So invite them, let them get a taste of what Toastmasters is all about. Now, when we had our club elections last year, and I was elected as VP membership of Beyond the Seas, the first thing I did in July, the first meeting, was I deputized every member of the club and I made them, told them, suggested to them that they were also a VP of membership. I wasn't going to be the one inviting guests to meetings all the time. Every member of the club should consider themselves a VP membership, and all should be consciously inviting guests to meetings. Now, that's a Calvinism for y'all. No charge for that. You can take that back to your clubs and use that. Every member of your club is a VP membership, and all should be consciously inviting guests to meetings. When we met in person, any guest that walked through the door could be met by any club member. Any club member could pick up a brochure and give it to that guest, invite them to have a seat, talk to them about why they're at Toastmasters, um, give them a membership application. The same thing in the virtual world. When guests do show up at your meetings, everyone should try to engage them, welcome them, uh, ask how they found the meeting, who invited them, so on and so forth. Make them feel comfortable. That's how you treat a guest. If someone comes into your home, don't you want your home to be inviting and warm to them, and they can say they had a good time visiting you? Same thing with Toastmasters. You want to make your club environment warm and inviting. Remember, virtual club recruiting. You treat them good, you have a chance of them coming back and wanting to join the club. Virtual club welcome packet for guests. In the person to person meetings, we always had a guest packet, right? Most clubs had that. It was a folder. And inside that folder was brochures. It was things we actually had for a period of time, a history of Beyond the Seas, how it came to be founded. It might include pictures of awards the club has won, information about the district, what Toastmasters is, a welcome letter from the club. Dear guests, thank you for coming today. Blah, 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 blah. A little bit about Toastmasters. Tell them what you need to tell them and make that a welcoming, inviting welcome letter. You want to also include information that's useful for them, the meeting time and place, what days you usually meet on. Someone could have invited them and didn't tell them, hey, we meet every first, third, and fifth Saturday, if there's a fifth Saturday. And then if anything happens special on that fifth Saturday, maybe it's a speakathon, let the guests know that. They may be interested in find what's a speakathon. Maybe I'll show up on that fifth Saturday and see what that's all about. Include information in that welcome letter. Share the mission of the club, your mission statement. If your club doesn't have a mission statement, either strive with the officers and the members to create one, or find the Toastmasters mission statement and use that. Every club, especially clubs that are trying to be strong clubs, should have a calendar. In Free Toast Host, there's an area for calendar events. You can put every club meeting for the year on that calendar. And members can see that, and you can easily access information for the guest welcome packet from that calendar. When are you going to have open houses? Which holidays is going to impact meetings so you may not meet on January 2nd because it's the new year? Things like that. The calendar is a very important part that the club can use, and whoever creates the welcome packet can use it as well to get information for the club welcome packet. Have brochures from Toastmasters International. Now, of course, virtually, you have to scan them, create the PDF, and then put that into the welcome packet for the virtual guest. That's one way of doing it. That's not hard, but I am also going to share with you something I found on one of the websites. I'm not sure if it was District 103 or Toastmasters, but there's information that can be used as a virtual guest packet. All those brochures, those topics, that's all on this site. And it's like different banners, like 6 different banners. And a guest can go there, bring up the page, and click on a banner. It'll tell them what is Toastmasters. Click on another one, it will tell them about leadership and communication. Click on another to tell them about benefits of values of Toastmasters. This is something that's already out there. I'm going to give you that resource. Use it as part of your guest packet. I recently, one of the clubs that and Sonia and I are coaching, we gave it to that club, VP membership, I believe it was, so that they can start using that as part of their welcome packet. And you also want to include a membership application in the welcome packet. You're setting, you're sowing the seeds, you're putting the seeds in the ground. We want you to be a member. Here's a application. This is a real organization. We are organized. And yes, to join, you have to join by membership application. Here's some information on it and move the process along. Sometimes being a ambassador for Toastmasters, whether it's an officer in the club or a member without the title of office, sometimes it's like being a car salesman. I myself have a history of being a car salesman in my former life, way years ago. And one thing I would do while the other salesmen were clamoring behind people and following them and pressuring them, my technique was to meet somebody, greet somebody, give them information about what they were looking for, and then I would step off. If you need me, I'll be over here. Call me if you need me. If not, I'm not going to bother you. When you give people the information they need to make an informed decision, it's a lot better than pushy sales techniques. People hate that. And have you ever been in a situation, um, as far as a guest, and the, the pressure to join the club may have been a bit inappropriate? I've seen that happen. And people have told me they didn't appreciate that. You know, one technique that I like about the other club that I am a member of, Wayo, is that they always say, come back again. Here, you got a little taste of the club today, and that's good, but come back again and get another taste. Make sure this is what you want to do. And by them coming the second time, yeah, you got them on the line at that point. They want more information. They saw something they liked. They got a taste and it tasted good. They want some more. And that's the way you turn them into a welcoming and want to participate member. So we talked about the membership application, and you also want to send them the log on information for the virtual meetings. Again, someone may have just given them that information. They may not have written it down. You want to make sure they have that access to it in a place where they can get it and use it when they're ready. So now let's talk about social media, another great advertising um, resource for the club. Some of the popular ones are LinkedIn and Facebook. I want to show you some differences between the two. In LinkedIn, you want to create a profile for your club, of course. And professional organizations usually hang out in LinkedIn. They will find you based on the hashtags that you use. You might use communication. You might use hashtag leadership. You might use hashtag Toastmasters. Those professional organizations will find you, and they'll be more apt to uh, dig in and find out more about you, contact you, message you, maybe network with you. In LinkedIn, you can post special events, upcoming meetings, etc. And you should always encourage members to connect to the place that to the page that grows your network, because people that are networked to them will also get networked to you through that page. So you're growing your advertising network. In Facebook, same thing, create a Facebook page for the club. There, it's more individuals on Facebook. They'll be the ones to find you. Invite your members. I went ahead of myself. Invite your members, encourage your members to join that Facebook page. By them doing that, of course, the people that they are friends with will also be able to access uh, things about the club through those Facebook connections. Again, you can post special events, upcoming meetings, etc. You want to keep your content fresh on Facebook. You want to post regularly. Why not have someone be in charge of at every meeting, take a picture of the event, the meeting, and then post that on Facebook. Even if they can't hear the speeches, you can say, we had a great meeting today. The topics were blah, 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 and blah, blah. The speeches was on blah, 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 blah. Man, what a good time. Come to our next meeting in 2 weeks on this date, and do that regularly. Somebody's going to see that. It's going to pique somebody's curiosity. And encourage members, I said that, to join that Facebook page and share it on their social media as well. What you're doing is you're the growing the visual for the club. More people are being visually informed about the club. Now, another great,
like the school district supervisor's letter got put on
okay, another great resource to use as far as social media is Meetup. Now, there's been a lot of things said about Meetup. I know that when it first started being used, we started using that at Beyond the Seas, and we had people actually looking to hook up with somebody through Meetup. But Meetup, yes, they were actually looking for dates, and they wanted to meet up. But Toastmasters meeting is not the place for that. So we informed them, and they never came to the meeting. So we know that wasn't what they were looking for. However, Meetup can be used to create community, to let that world of people that may be looking for things to do, looking for ways to better their communication skills or leadership skills, let them know about your club, and it will help the exposure for the club. Let me go back to this for a second. People join meetups to make new friends, pursue passions, and turn side hustles into careers. And you can use it to invite guests to your Toastmasters meeting. Now, this page shows what a standard meetup page will look like. Now, just imagine where it says social. It says the West Suburban Cheers Club. If it had the West Suburban Toastmasters Club, you can advertise your club. They click on it. It tells when the upcoming events is going to happen, a little blurb about the events, and people can actually find out where to go to log on, or if it's in-person meeting, where they can go to attend. There is a charge for a meetup, and it's $16.49 per month. And I know a lot of Toastmasters Club may not have the budget for that. However, if you look to the left here, it says for that $16.49, you can have or start 3 local meetup groups with unlimited members in that group. So if you find 2 more clubs to share that cost of $6.49 with you, it comes to $5.63 for each club per month. That's a little bit more manageable, right? If you get 2 clubs and another club to split the cost with you, that's $8.25 for each club. For some clubs, that's manageable as well. And when you think about the situation that a lot of Toastmasters clubs are in, is it worth $5 a month to try to make the club strong again? Is it worth $8 a month to chip in and try to grow the club? And not only that, but give the benefit of Toastmasters to some people that could probably use it? I think it's worth that small amount of money. So at this point, I'm going to stop for a minute, take a drink of water, and ask you guys, do you have any questions? And Cassandra, was there any questions in the chat?
Hey, Calvin, there were no questions as of yet. I do want to mention that Marin gave you kudos for mentioning that sales pitch, and how sometimes the sales pitch can come across very awkwardly. So she appreciated you mentioning that out the gate. And I should just confirm, there was one question. Mark was asking about the Zoom information, and you were mentioning the Zoom login information for the meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is
Good.
correct.
Good.
That is
And let's
correct.
see. Go ahead.
Zoom security has been upgraded since we first started using it a lot last March, let's say. So now most of the time a password will be required. There's other security measures that can be put into place to make sure the meetings are safe and not Zoom bombed. Some clubs are requesting that people, when they come in, show their face on the video, or at least have a name that's recognizable on the video, on their video square. And this way, the meeting is made more secure. You can see who it is, you can talk to them and see why they're there, who invited them, so on and so forth.
Great.
So does that answer your question, Mark? Good.
And we do have 2 individuals with their hands raised, Calvin. I'll start with Pamela first. And I thank you, Mark. I heard you say that. It did answer your question. So Pamela raised her hand, and then we also have guest Elizabeth, who will go second. Pamela, the floor is yours. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Calvin, for the information. My question is that if you've had inquiries for your clubs, just say up to maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I know you mentioned not to be a used car salesman. How often would you reach out to those individuals if you did send them information about the club and the club meetings and they did not respond? Do you keep repeatedly sending them information, or you wait for them to make another inquiry?
Well, I wouldn't personally keep sending them regular emails. I would send them maybe once a quarter, something like that. And then if a year goes by and that person hasn't responded, then that's probably somebody that could be taken off that list. So you would give them maybe 3, 4 chances. And if they're not responding, then maybe take them off the list.
Okay, thank you.
And next, Elizabeth.
Hello. First of all, thank you for an excellent presentation, learning lots and lots. My question is, in the social media mix, do you use Twitter at all to as part of the social media mix? You mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Facebook. What about Twitter?
Yes, I didn't mention Twitter because although I do have a Twitter account where I post my podcast, I don't tweet. However, my other club, Beyond the Seas, does have a Twitter account, and our VP PR does post on Twitter regularly. I believe whenever he posts something on Facebook, he also posts on Twitter. And we also have a YouTube channel where we also have a speaker series going on where Cassandra was our guest speaker. I believe it was last month. She spoke on leadership, and then before that, we had Stan Piskorski, who spoke on giving evaluations. Yesterday, and Sonia spoke on effective use of PowerPoint. All of those workshop presentations will be posted on our YouTube channel for the club. So that's another way of uh, exposing yourself to the rest of the world. Good question. Anyone
Calvin,
else?
I don't see any other questions, Calvin. I just simply see comments. Marin thanked you for giving the breakdown regarding the cost when you were breaking down Meetup. That was great. She enjoyed having that information. And then Dion, as you were talking about the entire social media platform, she threw in Instagram. And I see that Michelle says that unless it's changed, Facebook can be connected to Twitter to avoid posting twice. So I like that comment that Michelle made, Calvin, because it's going in alignment with what you were sharing about
Yes, that
your
and
club.
that is true. Yes, and that is true. There's a lot of social media platforms that are connecting these days. For example, I post my podcast on what's called Spreaker.com. I click a button and it goes to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, and SoundCloud. So there is a some way to interface between Facebook and, as Michelle said, I believe it was Michelle.
Mhm.
There's a way to interface, post it on Facebook, and it goes out to other social media.
Okay, good, good.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
I'm
for
seeing
that.
quite a few things. I'll make this final comment, Calvin, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Amy put in the chat box for everyone. She mentioned that Triton College has social media classes. So I like the fact, Calvin, when you were talking about all the different social media platforms, of course, clubs have to decide, just like an individual has to decide which platform is the best for your club. And as you were talking about the Twitter, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the meetups, if people are wondering which one is best for my club or what are they all about, perhaps this resource from Triton College on social media could actually assist as well. So everyone, if you take a look at the chat box, you'll see that resource from Amy Duncan. And thank you so much, Amy, for sharing that.
You're welcome. It starts February 9th. There's a series of 4 classes, and I took them last fall, and it was very helpful and informative. And I was able to take them for $6 per class because I'm 60 now.
Gotcha. Thanks, Amy. All right, Calvin, you can take it away.
Okay, okay, thank you. You know, in my other life, a while back, yes, I had another life also, and it was in theater. I worked in the theater here in Chicago for like 12, 15 years. I was an actor, writer, director, producer, ran a non for profit theater company with my wife. And one thing I learned is you can have the best show in the world, but if people don't know about it, they won't come. Same thing about your Toastmasters club. You can consider your club the best club in the world. You can be presidents distinguished for the last 20 years. But if nobody knows about it, they're not going to come. So that leads us to my next screen. using your website in this virtual world. Does your club have a website? It should. And if you don't have one, you need to get one. And if you have one, you need to use it effectively. Your website is the portal to the outside world. The outside world can see your club through your club website, and you should treat it as such. You need to update it regularly. Keep the next meeting date current. I know with Beyond the Seas, my club here in Naperville area, we meet, let's say on Saturdays, either Saturday evening, Sunday, or definitely by Monday. The headline on the homepage is updated with the next meeting date. So if anybody comes to the website on Monday or Tuesday, they're not going to see we just met on Saturday. They're going to see the next meeting date. And that's important when you're trying to give information to the world and get those guests to come visit you. They need to know when to show up. I also suggest using real photos from club meetings, not just the Toastmasters stock pictures where everybody looks perfect and they're modeling and they're posing for the pictures. That's all well and good for a competent communication manual. It's okay to see that on pathways, but I suggest using some real photos from meetings. When we met in person, a lot of people would stand in front of the club and give their speech. A photo would be taken. That could be used on the website. It can also be used in social media if that person gives their okay to use it in that manner. Your club website should mention any awards the club have earned. If you are an award-winning club, why not put it on your website? The other club, Wayo, that we're members of, they mention the awards that they have won, the years they've won the awards. Beyond the Seas, we mentioned that we are a President's Distinguished Club. We mentioned the consecutive number of years. That's information that makes you stand out from any other Toastmasters club. Hey, this is an award-winning club. They use real pictures, real people. Maybe I'll go visit them. And if you're meeting virtually, I also suggest, that's the word I want to use, suggest. Make sure you include a picture from a virtual meeting. Now, here's a picture of the homepage from Beyond the Seas from back in June. We talk about leadership skills, communication skills, invite them to the meeting. The date was current when this picture was taken. We informed them it's going to be a virtual meeting on Zoom. At that time, we told them to contact us for log on information. But if you look to the left, contact us is right there. They click on that, they find out where to inquire for the Zoom information. We've since changed that, and the Zoom link is on the homepage. We tell them when the meeting's going to start and when it's going to end. Hey, you're going to be there, expect to be there for 2 hours. And an award-winning club, put that on there. We also included a picture of club members at a district annual conference. We showed the awards, we got trophies, and we look like an award-winning club. That's exciting to people. That's what you want to promote. And a picture from our very first virtual Toastmasters Club. Now, what we do is every month we add news from that month on the website. But people can see, hey, this club is meeting virtually. They're still doing their thing. Maybe I'll go visit them. In the virtual world, just as in the in-person world, you want to follow up with your guests. When they show up as a VP membership, I always ask for their email address. Some clubs use a Survey Monkey, MailChimp type thing where they can click on, it takes them somewhere where they can fill in their information. And that's well and good to have their information, but somebody needs to follow up with them by email, by call, thanking them for attending, asking them, is there anything that you need answered? Do you have any questions? Do you think this might be helpful to you in your life, in your career? Let me give you information. I'm here for you. Also, I don't see a problem with asking them if they're considering a membership in the club. You can also send out a post-event survey. This would help the club see what went well, what you might be able to improve on. Getting information from guests post-event is very useful. I would say very critical, because sometimes when you ask them at the end of the meeting, how did you enjoy yourself? Did you like? Yes, I liked it. Yes, this, that, and the other. Most of the time it's going to be positive. In fact, I have yet to hear anybody say, I didn't like this, I hated it. It's not just the fact that everything probably was good, but if you ask them after the meeting and they don't feel put on the spot, they may tell you something or diverge something that will be useful. The club may not be aware of it. That can be useful to correct and make the meetings better, improve it for the future. I got to share this with you guys. This is a PDF of a Facebook posting that I saw last year in June. And, we were sheltered in place. People were like peeking out of their doors, see if it was okay to go outside and everything. We were not getting together in person at all. And I saw this and it said, open house block party. I was like, who's having a block party in June in Illinois and we are sheltered in place? It caught my attention. And I started reading it. Lone Grove, Lake Zurich Toastmasters. Oh, this is a Toastmasters meeting. Let me find out more. And then I started reading about the happy host, the first lady of laughter, the different guests that was going to be at this event. And I realized, oh, this is a virtual open house block party. And they were celebrating their 80th year anniversary of being a club. I thought this was so cool and innovative. Man, it caught my eye. Who else's eye did it catch? Although I could not be there that day, I stayed in touch with what they were doing. On their Facebook page, on the day of the event, an hour before the event, they updated it. Just an hour to go, folks. This is our 80th block party, 80th year block party, and they put the Zoom information in there. So anybody that wanted to join at that point, they didn't have to do anything else except click on the link at the appropriate time. Thought that was genius. But wait, there's more. After the event, they posted pictures from the event, the awesome block party that they had. I thought this was genius. And this is just what we should be doing to get guests to come. Post something in advance, something that's going to catch their eyes. Then post a few minutes before the event. Did show of hands, did anybody get a email or notice from Eventbrite today, 2 hours to go before this event? I got one. Anybody else? I can't see everybody, but thank you for the thumbs up. Fantastic. That's how you keep people engaged. People forget they have things going on, but if you give them a notice, advance notice, just before the event notice, it's a good chance that they will show up. Now, I thought this marketing plan that this um, Long Grove Lake Zurich club used was fantastic. Now, another thing to get people to come to your club in this virtual world is you have to visit clubs as well. One hand washes the other. But guess what? When you visit clubs, it gives you the opportunity to then invite them to your club. Is Becky Shawler still on this Zoom? Becky Shawler lives in, I think, Oklahoma, and she not only visited Beyond the Seas last year, but she visited WAYO as well. And when she became a member of WAYO here in Illinois, she invites us to her club for different events that they have. And who knows, somebody from WAYO may visit their club and say, hey, I like this club. Maybe I'll consider dual membership and join them. So this is the same thing that we should be doing. There's no reason not to visit clubs these days. I know people that have visited clubs in other countries on a regular basis. But whenever you do, always mention your club. And if you have something special going on or not, invite them to visit your club. Put your club information in the chat so whoever's interested can visit. I have at least 6 clubs that I'm going to visit in the next couple months of people that have visited clubs I've been in, and now I'm going to return that favor. If you are part of a chamber of commerce, any organization that you may visit, mention your club, share your mission, share your activity with other people that may be on that same wavelength, that may be interested in joining your club. Always include the day and the time. There's nothing worse than getting information and then after the fact, oh man, where is it at? What time is it? What day? I didn't get that information. So you always want to make sure that an interested party can reach out and show up. Another way to get guests is to invite or host a guest speaker. Yes, yes. When we had Cassandra Lee come speak at Beyond the Seas, you better believe we marketed that. And we had guests come from other clubs because of who she is and the following that she has, the topic that she was speaking on, and just the fact of support from like-minded Toastmasters. So host a guest speaker. It doesn't have to be just for open houses. Plan it out in advance with enough time to market it, advertise it in those social media spots that we talked about, and watch the registrations come. For example, on yesterday, my wife and Sonia was a guest speaker at our speaker series at Beyond the Seas on effective presentations using PowerPoint. We marketed this started marketing in Eventbrite on January 1st. The event was on the 30th. We had 43 people register, and not all of them were Toastmasters. At the height of the attendance yesterday, we had 28 people, and not all of them were Toastmasters. So me, as VP membership, I have already reached out to those guests that came that are not Toastmasters and have indicated that they wanted to learn more about Toastmasters. This registration included a two-question questionnaire. One, are you a member of Toastmasters? And if yes, if no, I'm sorry, the second question will pop up. Would you like information about joining a virtual meeting or being a member at a virtual Toastmasters club? So now the follow-up begins with those guests. That's how you work the virtual club recruiting. And if it's too much for you to do, get a committee, make a committee. I am big on sharing my workload. I have no problem with finding people that I can ask to work with me, ask to help me, but people that I trust to get the job done as well. And you'd be surprised because in Toastmasters, we help each other. People ask you to show up for a club contest, be a judge, a functionary, whatever. We say if we can fit it in, we help. So host a guest speaker. And you can also use your Toastmasters district to find those guest speakers. I am sure that Greg Thompson or Dion Lagan uh, or even Cassandra, if you ask, will help you find a guest speaker for your club. You can contact Valerie Smith, the VPPR. I'm sure she knows people and find guests that can speak on your topic that way. Some clubs have a speakers bureau. I'm sorry, some districts have a speakers bureau. You should use and engage that. There's also speaker bureaus outside of Toastmasters, where if you're looking for a, uh, a particular topic, you can go into their database and find out who can do it. Uh, and then there's fees involved or not. Some people just want the exposure, but you can find somebody new and fresh that way. And if you're thinking of bringing in a speaker and none of these other things have worked for you, then I suggest try helpingareporter.com. Okay, there you find people that's willing to speak for an article that they're working on. They'll speak on topics from business, leadership, training, different academics, and they're often available to speak and for public speaking engagements as well. All they're trying to do is get together information and put together, what they have for their articles or whatever. But they're willing to come to your club, and most of the time, no cost. Helpareporter.com. So at this point, I'm going to stop, get another drink of water, but I want to ask you guys, do you have any questions? And Cassandra, was there any questions?
Yes, let me start with the question, Calvin, from Becky. Becky asked the question regarding what service would you recommend is being used in order to capture the names of the guests that come to your clubs? So what service would you recommend is used for that?
When you say capture the names, you mean, are they putting the names in the chat?
Or the guest, when the guests are visiting and you were mentioning capture, put the guest on your mailing list in essence, what service do you use for that?
Well, one thing you can use is Free Toast Host. There is a tool in the membership management section of it that allows you to put guest information in there. It will send out an automated a notice to that guest saying, thank you for joining our club, whatever you want the notice to say. You can definitely customize that and ask them, can we put you on our mailing list? If they check yes, then they're in, and you can send them follow-up information. So you get their name, their email, and their phone number.
Okay, that's and here's the second part to that question. Actually, with Becky's question, she wants to be able to know, what do you recommend asking for post-event survey? So similar to the service you would use to capture the guest information, what service are you using to do the post-event survey?
One of the most recommended and I think easy um, websites to use is surveymonkey.com. I believe they have a free package that you can use, and you just go in there, you create several questions that you want answers to. Um, it wouldn't be questions that you ask the guest in the meeting. You might say, if something could be changed about the meeting, for example, what would you suggest? Something you want to make sure that the survey is going to be useful to you. So you don't want to ask the questions that you asked them at the end of the meeting. Okay, you want them to be honest and maybe make them think for a minute. You know, is there something that turned you off about the meeting? And you might want to put a uh, a data capture part in there where they can type in what that thing was, yes, and what it was.
Okay,
That's one suggestion.
good.
Another suggestion is to have the VP membership or secretary capture that information. They can put it on an Excel sheet and keep up with your guests that way. You can organize it by date. You know which date they showed up, get their name, email, phone number, and you could even put boxes in there. Did you follow up with them? Did they respond back? And use that as a charting guide as well.
Good. Great question. Here's another thought that came about, and that's when you were mentioning being able to visit other clubs. And if you have something going on at your club, put that information in the chat box. When you're visiting other clubs, Calvin, and you want to share information about your club, do you get permission first before you post details about your club in the chat box, or do you just simply post information about your club in the chat box and hope someone from that club recognizes it? What would be the protocol for that?
I believe the protocol would be to ask, I am a member of this club in this district. Would it be okay if I put my club information in the chat? We would love to have you all visit us as a guest. We have this event coming up and it's on blah, 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 and it can benefit you this way and the other. Please tell me how I can proceed.
Okay. Good. I like that. And thank you for reminding us about being able to promote our clubs. Yet I was definitely thinking I would not want someone from another Toastmaster club to come into a WAO meeting and not really having spoken or been provided the opportunity to speak and start chatting in the way in the chat box about their own club meetings. It would seem kind of spammy. Yet if we recognize the guest and we give the guest an opportunity to speak, it's a great opportunity to share and ask at that point, after they say, hey, where are you from? What club do you belong to? You tell them that information, say, is it all right with you if I share some information about our club event? We have a special guest coming in to do an evaluation workshop. Is it okay if I drop that into the chat box for everyone here? To which then I think everyone of that home club would go, yes, by all means share. But I think if I just showed up and didn't say anything and then just started saying, come visit WAO, there's an evaluation workshop, I think that I would probably be booted out, right?
Probably.
Absolutely. Good. Okay,
But
Kevin, go ahead, Kevin. I'm still searching through the chat box here.
okay, but that did bring up something else that I needed to speak on. Um, when guests show up for meetings, in person or virtually, you should acknowledge that guest. We like to, and beyond the scenes, we like to acknowledge them in the beginning of the meeting, ask them, welcome them, tell them a little bit about what they should expect during that meeting. Ask them how did they come to find us that day. And then at the end of the meeting, we also want to involve them, if possible, in table topics. That's helping to break the ice, if you will, melt the ice, make them feel comfortable. We have table topics, explain what it is. All you have to do is talk off the top of your head for 1 to 2 minutes. It's not hard. Give it a shot. And they feel that they are part of the meeting at that point. They have contributed to the meeting. When the general evaluator says, what a great meeting, we had great table topics and great table topic speakers, they can, yeah, that's me. I spoke in table topics. I did that. And then at the end of the meeting, address them again. We thank you for coming. How did you like the meeting? Just leave it at that, because you're going to follow up with some more in-depth questions in your follow-up contact with them. So yeah.
Nice, nice. And Irina, you're okay. I see the details about successfully speaking in the chat box. Yes, you're okay. Remember, we said for this session, go ahead and drop everything in. So yes, you're good. And thank you for putting those details in there as well, Irina. I see that you also gave the Zoom details immediately. So everyone, if you want to test out visiting another club, successfully speaking, Irina Gordon is sending you an invitation right now. And speaking of invitation, Calvin, let me ask this question. I know this question appeared to be asked of me individually, but I think it might have been a question primarily for you. Have you reached out to Rotary, our alliance partners? Does your club Beyond the Seas have a partnership with the Rotary clubs? I know WAO does not. I have not personally reached out. Our club has not reached out and formed a partnership with the Rotary Club. Our club, WAO Club, is doing really well on membership. So for us, it hasn't been a real need for building the membership by reaching out to another partner. However, I'm curious, Calvin, to know, has Beyond the Seas done it, or any other club that you know, or do you even recommend that clubs reach out to the Rotary clubs to build their clubs?
Well, I do recognize, I think last year there was something about a partnership between Toastmasters and Rotary clubs. Beyond the Seas has not done that per se. We also are, pretty good with our membership, so we haven't had to do it. But I do plan to do some investigation for the club that we're mentoring, and Sonia and I are mentoring. I should say coaching, to use the clubs and the Rotary clubs in that area, to see if we can get them to come visit that club and get some guest members that way. Personally, I don't know of any Toastmasters clubs that have reached out to Rotaries. So I have no information on that, sorry. But I think it's worth looking into, because because when you're trying to get members and you need to get creative and use ideas that maybe not a lot of people are using, I would definitely look into it.
That is a very good point. And like you said, Calvin, if the club needs to build membership, is it worth spending $5.62 or $8.63 or even $16 and some odd cents for meetup.com? Well, perhaps there isn't a need to spend money to build, because now you can reach out to Rotary as an extension of building your membership. So I love the fact that guest Elizabeth, thank you so much for asking that question, because it definitely brings back to mind the fact that a year ago or 2 years ago, Toastmasters International did form a partnership with Rotary International. So that could potentially help some of our clubs that are looking for more members. That could be an opportunity for them to build their membership rather with dual members, someone from Rotary, and then they become a member of Toastmasters International. So great. Speaking of meetings, Calvin, here's a great question from Carol. Carol is asking, how do you think we will be meeting after the pandemic is past? Will we continue to meet virtually, or will we be going back to in-person meetings? I know what I think, but I'm curious to know what you think.
That's a very good question. And I know that in Beyond the Seas, our executive board of officers have discussed this quite extensively. When you have members of your club that do not live locally to you, you cannot or you should not just say, okay, well, we're meeting in person no more we're meeting in person now, so it's been nice knowing you. You can't just say that. So I personally think a lot of clubs are going to go to a hybrid model of in-person meetings and continue with the virtual meetings as well. For the fact that they may have members that joined virtually and do not live in the area of the in-person meetings, they should be accommodated for. And I do think when this is all over, Toastmasters are going to have clubs that will be exclusively meeting virtually as well. I think we're going to see the hybrid model. I think we're going to see the in-person, and I think we're going to see all virtual meeting clubs as well. My personal thought on it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Calvin. That's exactly what I was thinking. And I know our club growth director, Dion Legging, put in the chat box here. She said that learning to hold meetings virtually is an awesome skill. We don't want to lose that skill. And also she added in, we should meet with the hybrid. We should meet with the hybrid. And I recognize, Wayo, we have not yet approached that conversation from a serious decision-making standpoint, meaning we've had loose conversations around it. Yet in March, our 16th anniversary will be coming up. That's the third quarter. We will need to make a hard decision. And I shouldn't say a hard decision, but we would need to starting in April, May, and June, really making a determination as to what we're going to do, because we would want to update the bylaws so that way at the beginning of the new club year, our club bylaws are actually saying what we will do. And I would imagine we might end up having a hybrid, but of course, and I think, as Mark is pointing out, technology. You know, I know for Wayo, between Dushan and I, we're the Zoom master, the technology master. Even when we were in person, we were the ones handling a good bulk of the technology side. So that means if we are able to go back in person and do a virtual side, the technology has to be able to allow for us to do that, and we need the manpower to be able to do that. So clubs should definitely be aware of that. And also for us, meaning for Wayo, we meet in a public library. There's already a restriction on the number of people that can be in the space. 10 people. Wayo has at least 10 members show up plus guests. So we're already over the max that the library will allow us to do. So that becomes, do we change our location? Do we do the hybrid, the max at the library, everybody else virtual? A lot to discuss, a lot to determine. And again, we haven't had that hard conversation yet. Beyond the Seas has, everyone. So we say, take this conversation back to your clubs and start thinking about it. So that way, when July 1st, 2021 happens, your club members will know exactly how you'll be operating, and do take into account the need for the technology.
That is correct. And on that note of technology, a few years ago, before this shelter in place virtual world even became prominent, and Sonia and I visited a club um, in District 30 one evening, and it was an in-person meeting, but they had another sister Toastmaster club in another city and state on the screen, and they were able to participate in the meeting from a different location. So with the right technology, that could be part of it as well.
Well, now here's another question. I'm glad that you mentioned technology. This is a question from Jeanette. Jeanette is asking about corporate clubs. I know a lot of times the technology for corporate clubs tend to be much better than for community clubs, because again, you're able to use the corporation's technology for your meeting. Yeah, here specifically, Calvin, is Jeanette's question. Jeanette wants to know, do you have any thoughts for corporate clubs? We have had some joint meetings with clubs in our firm and other cities. We could do better at following up with the guests, so thanks for that reminder. Yet, what do you recommend for Jeanette and anyone who's in a corporate club that could potentially help them with building their membership, Calvin. So what recruitment tips would you give to anyone in a corporate club?
Well, for a corporate club, unfortunately, I don't think there's any easy answers because there's a lot of things that come into play. Technology, what is allowed? As far as advertising, what is allowed? As far as management, are they on your side? Will they help you? As far as the recruiting that needs to be done, is HR able to help with that? How do you get your coworkers basically to know about your club and come to your club on a regular basis? Corporate clubs have a completely different set of dynamics, and their problems, some of their problems can't be solved the same way a community club will solve those problems of membership. I think that if they focus on having special events well promoted, that you get the company as well as management involved in advertising, that is a good start. Whatever you do in a corporate club, it cannot hurt to have management on your side.
That is a really good point. Having management on your side. I remember when I started in Toastmaster, I started at a corporate club. And not only did I have management on my side, I had the HR department on my side. I can only imagine if I was still there in this environment where we're all virtual, I would have by now had a conversation with HR and the club members to figure out how can we still keep the club moving forward, because now we have to be virtual. And this pandemic has thrown a loop in virtual, because it's one thing to be virtual and you're on site at the company, but now everyone is from home and you still are working with your Toastmasters club. So bringing in management, bringing in HR, whoever is in that leadership role at your company, Jeanette, who could assist with making sure that the club can still run successfully. I think that's what Calvin is saying. And that's also what I'm stressing. Whoever you have that's your cheerleader and your supporter from management, get with them along with your club members and see what you guys can do to actually make certain that the club can still function. And I think it's
And
worth it. Go for it, Calvin.
yeah, and I would also suggest asking your district if you could get a representative from Toastmasters to maybe speak to management, maybe a mock meeting, perhaps, to just reinforce the benefits and the values of Toastmasters. Sometimes management may have changed over the years, and you need to get a new group of people involved from the management point of view and show the benefits and show the values, and then take it from that point.
Calvin, I know that we are about 12 minutes from our time. I don't really see any other questions, and I'm not sure if you had any other slides or any more presentation that you wanted to go into. I wanted to make sure that I could pause it here and give you back the floor, and that way you can take it away with the
Yes,
last portion of your presentation.
fantastic. And guess what? We are up to the Q&A part. So the timing was just perfect. And I want to also put up this screen as well. Through my work in Toastmasters, it has enabled me to not only be a distinguished Toastmaster twice over, but it has allowed me to create a career for myself as a professional speaker. So if you need anything as far as workshops, motivational keynote speaking engagement type thing, here's my email, my website. My website also has an online training system. It has 144 modules, everything from project management, administration management, HR management. It has Microsoft Office trainings, accounting, so on and so forth. And of course, my Facebook page is Born to Speak to You. That's where I put my video blog up 3 times a week. And for 3 minutes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can start your day off with a motivational speaking, a motivational speech, a motivational thought from moi to you. So
Awesome.
since we are at the 10-minute mark and we're at the Q&A, is there any other questions or things that we can talk about right now? If not, I have a question for you all. So you first. Any questions for me?
And feel free, everyone, raise your hand. That way we can visually see you faster. And that's in the reaction icon. And although I don't see any raising hands, I'm following Ansonia's suit there, Calvin. I'm giving you the celebration icon too.
Okay.
And yeah. You know what? Not really a question, Calvin, but I am seeing a comment that came in from Marin about the Rotary Club. And she mentioned that her club, West Suburban Toastmasters Club, did have a Rotary person come speak a while back. And a couple of them did go to the Rotary meetings. She said their meetings seemed to revolve around in-person meals. And that, of course, was before COVID, but they have not had any specific members or any specific individuals come out to their meetings as of yet. But they are, it sounds like Marin's club is someone in District 103 that has at least reached out and attempted to forge a relationship with a Rotary Club. So that's good to know.
Fantastic. Good.
Love
Well,
it.
since there's no questions for me, I did say I had something for you all. So I'm just going to choose somebody at random here. I'm going to ask Robin. Hey, Robin. My question to you is there anything from this workshop that you're going to take back to your club and maybe put in play?
Yes, there's a lot of information I gathered. And one thing I'm going to do is the new member or guest brochure. I think that's a great idea because we make sure that we greet everyone, but they don't leave our meetings with anything. And I like that, something brief and gives overall information about our club.
Oh yeah, you got to give them some information that is pertinent. Would you like to go to an event and walk away without anything? People always get a guest, a program, or they buy something in the vending spot because you want something to take away. It should be the same way when visiting a Toastmaster club. Get something to take away.
Agreed.
I am going to put into the chat that resource I told you all about. This can be when you download this and go to it. You'll see information that can be clicked on about Toastmasters. Again, it's like different flags, and you click on one and it gives you information, click on another, so on and so forth. It's very useful, and you can use this actually as your guest packet. In addition to a membership application, Zoom log on, and something about the club as well. So I have one more question, and let's see who I'm going to ask. Name I haven't heard today. Tiffany White. Can you unmute yourself, Tiffany?
Hi.
Hello, Tiffany. Welcome. Thanks for attending today. My question for you is, if there was a guest that came to visit your club and this guest was really bashful, really shy, seeming to be not want to say much. What are some techniques that you would use in your club to loosen them up, make them feel more at home?
Well, normally if we were meeting in person, I would either sit with the guest or we'd have someone in the club sit with the guest and really kind of help guide them through the meeting. So sit with them, make sure they had the agenda and kind of explain what the different aspects of the meeting are so that they're not completely lost, because I'm a member of Christ Universal Temple Club number 1. And so, we'd have people who weren't a member of the church that would come and visit. And so we didn't want them to feel left out because they weren't a member of Christ Universal Temple. And so we would, have someone sit with them, or I would sit with them and kind of help guide them through the meeting. And people really appreciated that because, it was hard for them to take the first step to even come
Right.
to a meeting. And so we, would make them very comfortable. And that actually helped in terms of the follow-up. So, afterwards, we make sure we follow up with them, and those individuals will want to come back again to another meeting and ultimately join.
And you know what, Tiffany, I'm going to make this short because my time is just about up, but it's very important when these guests come to visit, have someone to sit with them, have someone even assigned in the virtual meeting to check on them. Send a chat directly to the guest. Hey, guest, any questions or anything I can help you with? Uh, do you need a virtual glass of water? whatever, whatever,
Right.
whatever it might be. So the main thing is to take care of the guest.
Agree.
Well, thank you for that. Well, that's about all, y'all. I want to thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you on a snowy Sunday afternoon. And Cassandra, thank you again.
Oh, Calvin, you are so welcome. I'm glad that I was able to get you before Super Bowl Sunday.
That's right.
Yes.
And you know that.
Yeah, right. And so there you go. I had to make sure I got the schedule together so that way it was not on Super Bowl Sunday. And everyone, I'm glad that I was able to bring Calvin to you in the month of January. This being the beginning of our new calendar year, as well as the beginning of the third quarter of our club year, I thought it was important to bring to you 2 topics this month. I did Free Toast Host on January 10th. Calvin is closing us out on January 31st here with virtual club recruiting. He gave a wealth of information. The beauty of this workshop is the fact that it was recorded and you will receive a copy of the link. Therefore, you can continue to go through and watch his presentation, as well as share the presentation with your fellow club officers who may be able to help you implement a lot of what was said today. I've been taking various courses since I'm chuckling, since April of last year. Man, it's almost been a year worth of learning for me. And a lot of the classes I was taking were primarily for my own purposes, my own development, and for my business. Yet I'll tell you, I've had to tell my business coach, listen, I can't take another class until I start implementing what I have been learning. So what you got today, you got a lot of good information. You don't have to do this alone. Get your club officers, some of your club members, bring them a part of the process or bring them in and get them involved. That way you can have them to be a part of the process in helping you guys to increase your membership. Set a target number for the number of members you want to have by June 30th of 2021. Begin February 1st with at least sending a social media post, and at the next meeting, following up with your guest. See if the change in behavior can start to increase the level of guests that you get, in addition to the level or the number of guests who becomes members. We know in the Toastmaster year, having 4 new members and 4 more new members, giving you a total of 8 is great. Yet in some instances, if you've been struggling with membership, if you can get at least 1 new member before the end of the club year, you know you've been doing something right. And after that, you just continue to repeat what you've been doing. Everyone, I'm so grateful for your time. thank you so much for being here. Oh, and you're so welcome. We appreciate all the comments in the chat box. As a matter of fact, feel free to save the chat box if you can see that 3 dots, so that way you can have some of the comments and the links that were placed inside of the chat box there. It is now the official time end of our session. I want to thank everyone for being here. And until next time, I am Cassandra, Diva of Dialogue Lee, your past district director and senior advisor for District 103 Toastmasters. It gave me great pleasure to bring to you this session. Join me on February 21st when I present the second half of the Gibbs' partnership, Meanie and Sonia Gibbs, when she will share with you how to become a professional speaker, a podcaster, and YouTuber. Everyone, thank you for being here today. Enjoy your weekend or the rest of it. Bye-bye.